some sketchy shit. Doo-dah, doo-dah, hope I get away with it. Oh, doo-dah, day.
Okay. If you weren't watching Stupid O'Clock, you did not know that my camera died in the last 15 minutes of the show. And I finally got it running again. Hopefully the microphone is working.
Yeah, you are microphoning.
Good. Hello, Thesis. Hello, Daniel. Still don't know who you are, but you've been showing up a lot to the shows, so thank you for being here. We are running, well, basically, Scotty has rigged something together. We'll see how long it holds out. But we got the emergency system running here for some reason. One of my USB splitters, the outlet ports that have the electrical switches on it, just stopped working with the camera. Now, then my microphone quit working, and then I found a connector that the cats had been playing with. So unless I want to spend half the night laying on the floor with a flashlight trying to figure out where all this snake's nest of wiring goes to, I'm just going to have to save that till tomorrow.
Oh, so it was the cat's fault.
No, the cat was not even in the room at the time. I just found something the cats had been playing with and had to reseat the KVM switch and things like that for the keyboard and the monitor. But that had nothing to do with the microphone or the camera. So it's two separate issues. So I'm going to have to figure out whether it is the USB outlet strip or...
So it was two great issues not going good together.
Right. Um, there was a synergy in the force. And
I
we're not
see
a very
Curie has made it.
yes. Hello, Kiri.
All
Thesis
right.
Kiri, if you got time, pop on in here. Joe Bachman has gone to bed for the evening. Joe Dog is about to.
Yep.
Uh, Aunt Donna is not feeling well, so nobody pops in. I'm doing a solo show for just a little while and then shutting down early. But
But yeah, I just hung around long enough to make sure you got everything up and running and doing its thing.
what surprises me is the virtual background did not work in stupid o'clock. Pop in here, and just as I was about to go, well, I guess I'll do this without a green screen. Up it comes. So maybe it's a StreamYard issue. I don't know. I would rather think that I just need to buy a new USB outlet strip because there's nothing I can do about StreamYard.
All right. Well, see if you've got the command, I'm out of here.
I got it.
All right. So everybody get in here and talk to Dan because I'm going to bed.
Uh, yes, Kiri. Kiri, have you ever heard Arlo Guthrie singing Alice's Restaurant? If you haven't, you should. That's a good 16 minutes of your life you'll never get back, but you'll be rolling on the floor laughing the whole time. Uh,
All right. Good night, y'all.
good night, Joe Dog. Thank you very much. I've heard of that song. Well, considering it was during the Nixon administration when it came out, and has been heavily referenced in pop culture ever since, I would be a bit surprised if someone of your erudition and exposure to the worlds of pop culture had not heard of it. Yeah. Electronic crisis averted, skin of the teeth style, but yeah, we're actually rolling. So let's see what we can do here. Um, um, I've had house guests this weekend. Lindsay's oldest daughter and our grandson, her son, were with us all weekend and are on their way back to Virginia right now. And I am quite worried about them because they are driving in the dark, but she's done that before. She's a good driver. The car checks out service wise. We'll just see if they can miraculously avoid stupid people in between here and Virginia. If it dates back to the 60s, 70s, there's a possibility you heard it or watched it, listened to it pop culture wise. Yes. Matter of fact, just before he retired from live performing, he recorded a version of it, him just sitting on stage, playing the song, doing the entire routine, um, which is a real contrast to how young he was when the song first came out and how young he was when the first video recording of him singing it was. If you look around YouTube long enough, you can probably find several different performances of him at several different ages. Now, I can also remember I remember the song. The title's a little bit complicated, but there's another song he did years later that is in a very similar vein, but it is called The Strange Saga of Reuben Clemso and His Daughter in the Key of A. And it's also not a short song, but it is a highly humorous introduction to the song, and then it turns into a sea shanty. I highly recommend listening to that one too. It's off the album One Night. Arlo's had a long and colorful career, and there's always a lot of humor in his music. Of course, his father was Woody Guthrie, who wrote "This Land Is Your Land, This Land Is My Land." Was a folk singer that taught Arlo a lot. Worked with, I do believe it was Pete Seeger. Both of them, I mean. Very, very good in the civil rights movement. Did a lot of stuff to help popularize the idea that, you know, maybe people ought to be treated just the way we want to be treated and not any other way, which is, kind of a revolutionary idea. Good Lord. You think I took a hit of acid instead of drunk a beer? I know one shot of Irish whiskey is not enough to do that to me, and I've only had the one shot, so I do mean one sip. Haven't even drunk the whole shot yet. And I know Shinerbock's not that strong. Nope. So the whole thing about the 60s was all they were doing is saying the same thing that got one Jewish guy nailed to a tree 2,000 years ago. Wouldn't it be nice if we could just be nice to one another? What an astoundingly revolutionary philosophy. Yeah, it would. Sometimes it happens. Sometimes people don't want it to happen, but individuals make it happen anyway. And even then, sometimes it just doesn't catch on. Deserves to catch on, it deserves to be widespread. But there's none so strange as people. For every good and decent and kind person out there, there seems to be a counterpoint who is bound and determined not to be. I think the older members of my family would just be saying, it's a shame, we can't do anything, you some folks you just can't educate. And I'm saying, well, maybe you can reach others. Pass on a message. There's more to life than racking up a dollar score in a bank account. There's more to life than trying to run somebody else's. There's another song says, you can't even run your own life. Be damned if you're gonna run mine. Can't remember who actually recorded that one. I've heard a lot back in the 60s and 70s, but very popular piece of music at the time. But not everything is doom and gloom. Not everything is us against them. Matter of fact, nothing should be us against them. When you've got blessings, you don't hoard them to yourself. If you got a huge meal, you don't try and eat it all by yourself. You build a bigger table so you can have more company. Help one another, respect one another, do good, be kind. It costs you nothing to be kind. It costs you nothing to treat other people with respect. Now, given there are plenty of people out there that you find out the hard way don't deserve your respect. It can be withdrawn, but it's very hard for them to earn it back once you're convinced that they are beyond deserving of your respect. Once that's broken, it's very hard to repair. You can't just take it down to the jewelry shop and have it resized. Or a couple of extra pieces welded on to make it fit. And you notice how carefully I've danced around including various political parties in this particular diatribe? That's because, as a very wise person once observed, this too shall pass. No good deed goes unpunished. Yes, no good deed goes unpunished. That fits right in there too. Yeah, it seems like the more you do good for some people, the more they take advantage of you, and that tires you out real quick, and it makes you not want to do anything that'll benefit somebody else down the line that you don't even know yet. But you can't give up hope. You can aspire to do and be better. You can make a difference. No matter how small of an influence you've got on the world, your influence is there. And like a drop of rain in a river, it can be joined by other drops of rain in that same river and create a mighty flood. Y'all have not heard me just get that philosophical before tonight, have you? Uh, you're welcome. You're pretty much in the middle of if I were writing another entry in my autobiography, which I've got titled Midnight on the Tractor of Introspection. Don't look for it to be published until after I am well and truly gone from this plane of existence. Because I don't see any reason for me to stop writing it until I no longer have that ability. Story's still going on. The memories are still being laid down. A lot of it is remembering my childhood in the Smoky Mountains, remembering my childhood on the farm 3 miles away from here, remember my parents, remember my grandparents, all my aunts and uncles, all my cousins, life in general. Um, there's a couple of things that are just ideas I had for stories that I don't know how to continue. Just, it's like the writer's prompt, the page of writer's prompts that I have up on Aphelion. Uh, this would be a great story. I don't know what to do with it, but it'd be a great story. But I don't want to forget that germ of an idea. So I wrote it down and it wound up being copied into the notes for this little project. If it never gets finished, it's because I'm unable to finish it. Um, hell, I might walk out in front of a bus or be struck down by some kind of plague or uh, might turn out that I'm not immune to Alzheimer's after all. That is a fear, a serious fear that I have to try and work around every day of my life because that's what deprived me and my family of my dad. It's a horrible thing, not only for the person undergoing it, but for the entire family of that person as well. The silver lining of it was that in his declining years, he was reliving in his mind the happiest times of his life. When he first married my mom, when my sister and brother and I were first born, uh, his first job, uh, just these things that were just golden moments in his memory that not even the disease could deprive him of. Not much of a silver lining from the point of view of everyone surviving. But it has to be said, They're much worse fates. Some of them I can imagine, but then I'm a writer. I can imagine some really horrible stuff. I have to be able to write villains, But have to be able to write heroes too. I find it more fun to simply create worlds and characters and turn them loose to explore it. It's highly interesting unless the story is about the world itself and not the characters. It doesn't make for very good stories, but if you've got that background, you can make good stories better. As the characters are following the plot, solving the problem, uh, fighting off the bad guys, getting captured, escaping, fighting off the bad guys again, over and over as many times as it takes to get to the final confrontation with the big bad and saving everybody from everything. Uh, Happy ending. Um, the extra depth to the world that you've created adds extra color. Thesis? Yes. Just waiting for someone to ask me if I can write a story in Jeff's world, but from someone else's perspective. Um, I can think of a very, very, very short one. It wouldn't really continue the adventure, but it would definitely be. Did we just see that? I don't know. Did we just see that? I asked you. Yeah, I know, but I'm asking you. Should we admit that we just saw that? Um, was that what we really saw, or did we just hallucinate that? And I go, I'm not telling anybody if you ain't. Deal. Of course, I get a bit more descriptive with it because I can, but it'd still be probably less than 1,000 words, which is not a bad length for a flash fiction story. It's a great length for a flash fiction story. Mm. Well, tomorrow I have got to work on. Yeah, tomorrow is in 2 minutes from now. Tomorrow, I've got to work on the final issue of Aphelion for December and January. And then we will collect more submissions and come back with the next 28th year starting in February. Now, well, thesis, what's stopping you? I mean, good grief. Um, there's absolutely nothing stopping you. Get with Carl and Donna for editing. I mean, I know I've done a little bit. uh, pull my edited versions off of Aphelion, so you know what I did change, as minuscule as it was. I mean, basically just some punctuation and fixing a run-on sentence or two, and it was very painless for me to edit. But I'm not the world's greatest editor. Uh, Hire Donna to edit it up for you. Hire Carl to fix you up a decent cover. Put it on Lulu. From Lulu, you can put it on Amazon, Kindle, and all kinds of things. Why not? The only thing holding you back is you. You can't live in fear. I just answered that while you were typing it. Knowing the process is not a problem. The process can be learned. Your fear of failure is what is holding you back. And this is going to sound extremely tough, especially for me, which a lot of people wouldn't expect this kind of thing from, but so what? So what if you don't make a lot of money off of it? Nobody does. It's a writer. Not until they get to, you know, Stephen King and Jacqueline Suzanne levels of publishers throwing money at you, and that day's long gone. Until you get to the point to where your name is printed on the book larger than the title of the book, because they know people are buying it because your name is on it, not because of what it's about, because most of them would never read it. They just want a little piece of that pie, a little piece of that fame. And I mean, seriously, if you never try, that's automatically failing. And if you try and fail, at least you made the attempt. That's 1,000% more than a lot of people will ever do in their lives that have stories inside them they never bother to make the first attempt to tell. Imagination is a very, very powerful thing. Not afraid of failing because of money. I'm afraid I have little of that as it is. I'm afraid of failing to write something that people consider good. You've already proven that wrong. People already like it. And people whose opinions you value. The only thing I fear is, what if the stories dry up? What if I can't come up with another one? Not going to happen. Only thing that I could fail by doing is not putting the work in. Not sitting down, not writing, not following through on the idea. quite frankly, I don't care if people like it or not. My stories, I mean, I don't care if people like them or not. I'm not writing them for them. I am my preferred reader. I write the stories that I want to read that no one else has thought of writing before. I'm my own audience. Believe me, there are things that I've written that I'm waiting on being published. There are passages that move me to tears because they are so beautiful. There's things that are so poetic. There's actual poetry involved. Um, I'm not afraid that I'm not good enough. I'm past the point of caring whether or not I'm good enough, whether I'm proficient enough. That's a matter of practice. I know the stories are here. My job is to get as many of them out of here and on paper before I am no longer here. Because when that happens, all the untold stories in my head die with me. And those characters and those worlds and those situations never have a chance to exist because I didn't persist. I didn't keep trying. I didn't keep practicing. It's no different than learning a sword form or staff or uh, sword and shield. It's a matter of practicing enough to where it becomes more than practice. It becomes a ballet, an instinctive set of movements. That act of sitting down and typing and throwing your soul into whatever it is that you're doing is no different. I wondered how long that would take. Got more Darker Angels written. Now you got Foxy and Kitty bugging you to write a sword book because Nick told them to bug you about it. Yes. And that's because you and Nick have a different perspective. You're doing the Chinese martial arts styles of what you know to do and what you're learning even more about every day. Nick is doing, I would say, the European version of that. Although axe and spear and sword translate east to west quite easily, but from I've got copies of Nick's 3 books about the weapons, and I would say he concentrates more on the European forms, and you are concentrating more on the Asian forms. Uh, and mostly Chinese because that is the area that interests you, but you're not remaining ignorant of the other countries in Asia. They have similar and different versions of the same thing. and compare and contrast as many different styles and eras and um, even country to country or continent to continent would be a nice thing to educate people about. Be the teacher you were born to be. Don't waffle. Don't fear. Just start as if it were a brand new sword form you were attempting to learn from the first step. Oh, you've been bugging you to write one for a while, but he's got my girls on my ass about it too. Kitty even asked if they could bring Trey and others into it. Yeah, you may have to write the damn thing just to preserve the domestic tranquility, my friend. Uh, ah, yeah. Uh, I wish I got the same kind of push from some of my family members. I mean, Lindsay's always 100% behind me. My kids are 100% behind me. My family doesn't understand what I do. They think it's all about fame and money. It's not about fame and money. It's about getting these ideas out of your head while you still got the chance. Here I am teaching someone that knows a lot more than me about a lot of things that I know nothing about, or just a smattering of the history thereof, to go, hey, if you want to do it, you're going to have to start. No one's going to start for you. If you want to continue with something you've already started, you have to continue. No one's going to pick up the torch. You have to do as much of it as you possibly can while you still got time. And yes, I said while you still got time, because we never know how much time we've got. I could live another 40 or 50 years, or I could fall over tomorrow. I don't know. Hell, an airplane could fall out of the sky and crush your apartment with you and Foxy in it. You don't know. You can't live in fear of it. It's not bloody likely, but it's possible. The sun could blow up, some other sun could blow up, and we could all wind up suddenly irradiated. Uh, we'd never know, but we'd have so many things unfinished. So why wait? Why not go for it? Can't win any prizes if you're not willing to play games. You don't have to play stupid games, but you can't win contests without entering. You can't win without competing unless your competition is yourself and you're just trying to do better than you did yesterday. That's quite admirable, actually. That's pretty much my attitude in life. I'm trying to be better at everything I do than I was the last time I picked up that particular tool and started on it. Every time I draw a cover for Aphelion, or assemble a cover for Aphelion, every time I write a story, every time I build something, um, every time I design something and bring the blueprint to life, it's got to be better than the last time I tried it. I've learned a whole lot more by making attempts that were less than stellarly successful, but that's immaterial. It really is. My challenge my challenge to myself is I want to be better than I was last time I tried this. And don't give me there is no try. Um, that's one of the things I disagree with about Star Wars. Yes, there is try, there is fail, there is get up and try again. Because that is the nature of life. It's not just you don't try, you just do. That's kind of goofy, really. No, it's try, take a chance on failing, try again and learn more from the previous unsuccessful try over and over and over again until it is a polished thing of grace and beauty that you have earned the right to be proud of. Now, you've earned the right to be proud of what you've already got done. Just those stories, just those stories. You could stop right now and never write another word and still be proud. You've already succeeded. You want to keep going because there's more to the story that you want to tell. You've already conquered the fear. You just don't realize it yet. Realize it. Sometimes I think I've known people that are more afraid of succeeding at something than failing at something. It sounds silly, doesn't it? But it's nonetheless true. I've heard it time and time again. But what if it works? Where do I go from there? Where do I go from there if it works? You go on to the next challenge. Your greatest competitor is not going to be some big bad enemy. It's always going to be yourself. From the moment you're born until the moment you die, your greatest competition is going to be yourself. The only way to really fail is to become so complacent that you stop trying. I've done this. Now I can sit back. Don't need to do it anymore. To me, that's failure. I've done this. Kind of proud of it. What else can I do now? That's the challenge. Whether you're ready to pick up the gauntlet yet again and face your greatest foe, your own self-doubts, your own, it'll hurt less if I don't try. No, it won't. I'm here to tell you it won't. It'll hurt more if you don't try. Because sooner or later you'll be sitting there going, well, I wish I'd done so much more. But it's weird. There are many people, as many people, handicapped by a fear of failure as there are of people handicapped by a fear of succeeding. Yes, it's not logical, but it's often true. And I don't know how many people are still listening. I mean, this has been uh, Philosophy of Dan 101, but then I am a seventh Dan. Inside joke. There's been a long, unbroken string of guys in my family named Dan. We just changed middle names instead of giving everybody numbers like some rich people. We've always been poor people. Blacksmiths, farmers. I don't know. I've never been able to discover why we got thrown out of England. It probably had something to do with either someone's cows or somebody's wife. Somebody rich and famous's wife. We couldn't be put to death because that would piss off the lady involved, but it could be tossed out of the country and told never to come back. I have no facts to back up that supposition, but after knowing my family for these many years, I can safely say it might take us a little while to settle down with that one special person. And before that happens, there's a lot of attempts to fill the void. And boy, if any of my ex-girlfriends ever heard that, they would not like the way I just phrased that. But that's pretty much how it is. You spend a long, long time searching for Miss Right, and you think you got there, and then you either screw it up or for some reason beyond anybody's control, it just doesn't work. That's pretty much the story of my life. Then you finally get lucky and everything works, and you don't want to do anything that puts it in danger. You don't want to take any more chances ever again. And that's the story of me and Lindsay. Finally got it right. Not going to take any chances on screwing it up. God knows I'm aggravating enough without being a philanderer. At least she has the benefits of knowing that, yes, I can cook if I'm in the mood. Yes, I can be entertaining. And yes, I can do a million other things that are useful. But at the end of the day, I'm still this annoying little kid that just absolutely adores doing things, making things, becoming things, learning things. I always start out with in a state of complete ignorance. Then, through trial and error, and remembering watching other people do this particular thing successfully, or through a family heritage of, hey, this is something we do, maybe you want to pay attention. Um, I didn't go to school or get any training to learn carpentry. I got that at home. Using power tools, I got that at home. I also took that as a college art class using power tools. Believe it or not, they called it sculpture. And also as a job, working my way through college using power tools. I had an entire wood shop at my disposal as a common laborer doing jobs, setting up the machinery, running the wood through it, processing it, taking the parts to the guys that used the parts to make something. Every activity can be a lesson in something, even if it's not anything related to that particular activity. This will probably bug thesis. I'm thinking of wax on, wax off. You don't know you're getting trained, but you're getting trained. Yeah. Um, I didn't know that I was being trained in furniture building and cabinetry and things like that when I was taught how to drive a nail to put a barn together, or taught how to lay concrete blocks for a basement retaining wall, or taught how to do plumbing to fix a leak so the house has got water again. Those same skills apply to something else. Many other things, actually. Um, Dated a girl in college whose dad designed nuclear power plants. Most of his work was designing the routing and labeling of plumbing. He didn't have to know anything about radioactivity. He didn't have to know anything about uh, steam engines. He just needed to know how to route pipe, different circuits of pipe, just like different electrical circuits. Make sure they never intermixed. He had to understand heat exchangers so that the two systems never did have to mix, but one could draw heat off the other without contamination. And she thought that was boring most of her life, and then she actually visited a power plant that her dad had designed, and she got to see the color-coded pipes. Red, do not ever touch, because these things got radioactive shit going through them. Blue, cooling. Green, heating. Heat exchanger changed from red to or green to blue, but red went through it in a sealed container. Yeah, I know how those things work. Um, I'm a geek. Uh, I can't lay hands on radioactive materials, but I understand how a reactor works and how an atomic power plant works, because it's basically steampunk. It's basically a steam engine. You just have to be careful that what creates the heat never touches anything else. Not physically. You can cool it off with a water jacket. You can use the heat to generate steam to drive turbines to create electricity. And then you take the recovered steam and cool it off and pipe it back into the system. Or you can vent the steam into the air, because it's just steam, no radioactivity involved. It's just ordinary clouds. Um, Makes the place a little bit more humid than normal, but those things, they happen. But it's just a giant steam engine. Instead of burning coal or wood, it burns uranium or plutonium. And the heat transfer device is something that can melt run through pipes into a heat exchanger, boil water inside that heat exchanger without ever touching that water, then back to the reactor to be heated up again. It's steampunk. Atomic power is steampunk. Nothing more, nothing less. It doesn't bother you. Some of the best training happens when you don't know you're being trained. Yes. Um, it's happened to me many times in my life. Don't know I'm being trained. All of a sudden, there's a test. There's always a test. Can't get out of life without there being a test. Mm. Well, I think the final test in life is even when you're dead, you got to go through Hartsfield Airport to get to your final destination. Atlanta. Don't talk to me about Atlanta. I know I'm quoting Marvin the Paranoid Android, or misquoting Marvin the Paranoid Android there, but the sentiment is the same. I like people in Atlanta. I like people who enjoy living in Atlanta. I like some of the stuff that happens in Atlanta. It's just real annoying to get there, and it ain't easy to escape. What time did we start this? Oh, 11:30. Okay. Yeah, I've already done an hour of monologuing here. Behold the power of the Dan. Um, turn him loose. Don't give him any notes. Don't give him any guests to play off of, and see if he can talk. Pro tip: he can. May not always be entertaining, but it's certainly verbalizations. Kiri, listening to my monologues is what you look forward to during a green room? Um, I really don't know how to take that, Kiri. I'm trying not to monologue in the green room because that's kind of one of those things where everybody is supposed to be able to take their turn. I am aware that left unchecked, I will talk constantly in order to fill up silence. I'd rather carry on equal conversations, listening to people that know things that I don't know, about things that I have no experience with, talking about things that I do know and do have experience with, alongside people that know these things and have had either similar or different experiences, and comparing the two. Um, what I look forward to in the green room is hearing Joe Dog groan about your dad jokes, but everybody got to get their kicks somehow. Uh, oh, I'm going to have to run down the hall here. So thankfully, I have prepared for moments like these. So y'all just sit back, collect your thoughts, and I'll be back in just a few minutes. Oh, I got back just in time. I should really do that with a series of those little we're going to commercial cards like Johnny Carson used to have on the Tonight Show. I used to find those highly entertaining. They were different art styles and different things like that. And it was just, I thought it was a brilliant way. You've got a musical interlude that leads into whatever adverts the channel puts in there, and then a lead in back to the thing. I just happened to sit down and put the headphones on at the exact moment the song ended. So that's pretty cool. Uh, oh, let's go back to the comments here. The dad jokes have been fun to do. Uh, oh, I'm not sure if we're privileged to know that information, Kiri, but talking to someone on Discord right now, Deep Talks, well, adding to other things that you have told us about your life recently, I'm hoping that's going very well. The dad jokes have been fun to do. Yeah, but mostly because you enjoy seeing Joe Dog squirm when you tell one. Uh, that's not a bad ambition in life, believe me. Um, There are many worse uses of your time. Oh, yep. Pun contests are also fun. Uh, avoid short jokes. That's all I can say, because he is a bit sensitive, and once you've actually hurt his feelings, it takes all the fun out of it. Believe me, I know from experience. And I never pick on him in that particular manner again. I find different manners to pick on him, in which he is not so thin skinned. Um, Probably could have searched my vocabulary for a better word than that, but I don't have time. I really just don't have time. Uh, exactly. Um, Everything else but those jokes is fair game. Exactly. Yeah. Uh, there's a difference between humor and personal attack. And that is a line that we learned not to cross, hopefully, during our childhood years, or at least during high school at the latest, because once you get to be an adult, there turn out to be unfortunate consequences for making inappropriate remarks about anyone of any particular genre, if that is something that they are particularly sensitive about. Um, I mean, seriously, don't go to a drag queen contest and make fun of people's makeup. Um, don't criticize the entertainers in a sideshow. Um, and what is YouTube? But an endless series of sideshows. Um, there's all sorts of things in there. Uh, don't do this, don't do that. Can't you read the signs? Um, oh God, there's a lot of music in my head. Um, it, uh, it's not all of it's mine. Most of it's by other people. It just influenced me. Yeah, I got to make a note somewhere to redo those musical interlude chords so they change enough to make it entertaining along with the music, since hopefully there won't ever be any ads in Stupid O'Clock or Last Man Standing. I mean, we don't do this to make money. I mean, yes, Jodo probably would like to be monetized and get some payments, and he probably would put up with ads. I don't care. I mean, not I don't care about him. For my part, last man standing. I don't care. I don't want ads. It's just like Aphelion. I don't want ads. I don't do this to make money. This is not a means to an end. This is having fun. This is me interacting with people I highly respect, either in the comments or on the screen as members of the panel. Uh, I don't. I don't need that much money. I'm a simple guy. I don't need that much money. I get by with a very inexpensive lifestyle. Well, except for power tools. Power tools get expensive, but hey, gotta have them to do what you want. You can use a handsaw to do everything, but it takes a whole lot longer. You can drive nails with a hammer, but if you've got a nail gun, you can drive a whole lot more nails in a shorter period of time and get a whole lot more work done. Everyone is different. I know people that have to have the latest and greatest electronic device every time something new comes out. And I use my cell phone to send texts and make phone calls and take pictures. Uh, I use my iPad to check the weather and chat in here so I don't have to redirect all kinds of things in StreamYard to not appear coming of having multiple answers to people coming from all the channels that it's being broadcast to, and we are cutting back the number of broadcasts that we're going to. Joe Dog is contemplating sticking with StreamYard just because of the ease of use, and I think that's well, I've told him I think that's the wrong thing. I think people need to go ahead and leave StreamYard to show them that increasing prices, doubling prices, in some cases, tripling prices for the same service is not acceptable. We can do what we do using other tools. We don't have to use this particular one. Sooner or later, if enough people decide that they're not going to pay the inflated prices for StreamYard, StreamYard will either be bought out by more reasonable people or they'll have to drop their prices again to more reasonable rates. I don't know for sure, but I think StreamYard's new owners think everybody is making millions of dollars off of YouTube ads instead of having these teeny tiny little niche things that only a few people are really interested in even knowing about, much less experiencing. Yeah, Kiri. I'm trying to talk to Joe Dog and go, hey, we can make them feel justified in raising their prices by cutting back on everything we do until we can still afford it, or we can get bold and strike out in a different direction. There are ways to do this exact same thing with other services that are, as yet, still reasonable in their rates, or bypassing them entirely. We could just record this stuff ahead of time, just in a computer. We can set it up. There are programs to do this. Yeah, thesis. Joe Bachman's been looking at alternatives. He's not the only one. There are ways where we could do this. There are ways where we could have a whole group of people in here, everybody equally reacting, and record it. Maybe not live, but then upload it to YouTube, share it to Facebook or wherever. I've got lots of things up on my personal YouTube page that don't have anything to do with being recorded through StreamYard. I have experimented with OBS so that I could have multiple screens going on at one time, multiple cameras, basically. Don't know how versatile it is. There's another one that is basically OBS on steroids that would allow us to do almost exactly what we're doing now. Maybe not with the number of streaming destinations that we have now, but we can always do it live, upload it, then disseminate it elsewhere. All it would really take if we weren't going live to any Facebook channel, we could do it, upload it. When that's done, share it. We would lose the live chat, which I would hate. It might be harder to set up multiple guests on stream. These things are not roadblocks, they're just hurdles. We can figure something out. All it takes is effort. All it takes is practice. It's no different than writing. Very few people turn out something flawless as a first draft. There's always running it through spell check and double checking the grammar and the punctuation. And if you're lucky, you've got somebody that has never experienced it before. You can get them to be a first reader, give you an honest critique so that you can go back with their recommendations in mind and apply a bit of polish to the rough edges. That's something I recommend to every writer. Spell check, spell check, spell check, spell check. Have somebody outside of your family who is not going to tell you an unvarnished truth to keep from hurting your feelings in most cases. Brush up on your grammar. There are textbooks out there that can be used to figure out which punctuation. Do you use a colon, a semicolon, or an em dash here? Those things, well, they bother me. I'm still learning stuff, and I've been doing this for 30 years or better. People are still finding typos and stuff. That's on me. I didn't do my due diligence, or I was trained incorrectly in my youth. There was a time I had an English teacher that told me that the contraction of it is and the possessive of something belongs to it was always the same word. Spelled exactly the same way. Turns out that was wrong. The teacher told us something that was wrong. Maybe she wanted to change the rules. Maybe she was taught the wrong set of rules. But later on in life, I had learned a difference and learned to go back and go, ooh, that's not a contraction. I need to spell it this way. That's a contraction. I need to spell it this way. The word it's does not always have an apostrophe in the middle. If it is a contraction, it has an apostrophe. It is basically it is without the I. The possessive lacks the apostrophe. Unless my dyslexia has got me backwards again, but I don't think so. Mm. Now, for those of you who are concerned about whether or not I drink too much on camera, that's the first ounce or so of anything besides beer that I've had all day. And I haven't had that much beer. I do have a stutter that I have been working to disabuse myself of for most of my life. But that's just a nervous tick, I suppose. Um, I am dyslexic. I can't spell worth sour owl shit. Um, I depend on spell check for that when I'm writing something. Um, there are grammar checking apps and things out there that you can pay entirely too much slavish attention to, but most of the time, in a general way, you can judge whether the suggestion for the correction the system gives you is what you really meant to say, or in a lot of cases, it's dialogue, and that's not the way those people speak. If you got somebody with an accent and you go to the trouble of spelling things so that the accent is obvious, that's going to fail a grammar check most of the time. Gonna fail quite a few spell checks most of the time too. You just have to know with which character's voice you were writing at the time. God, that was grammatically correct. That was really weird for me. Um, I, I usually can't say this stuff. I can just write it. Um, Thank you, Princess Leia. Oh, you know, this hour of me talking has been pretty much what I used to do for editorials on Aphelion. I try and, well, not get on my soapbox, but stand in front of the chalkboard and be a teacher for however many paragraphs. Writing lessons. Some of it is entirely still applicable. Some of it is outmoded. Some of it is maybe a lot of people are already in the uh, master's degree class, but some are still just learning. And it's to those to whom I'm speaking because they are the ones that may never have heard any of this stuff before. There are several ways to make your writing better, besides having to do with following rules and things. There are things you can do to aid your creativity. There are things that you can do to improve your character creation. There are things that you can do to enrich the background of the world that you're writing within. Hey, Richie. Yeah, you're absolutely right. If you stop learning, you start dying. Exactly. And with me, if I stop talking, I have to end the show. Now, one of the things you can do to make your characters more believable, more human, even if they're aliens, is to observe everybody around you. Watch how people interact. Watch how people talk to one another. Eavesdrop. People watch. Learn, basically, how body language does not always equal verbal language. A way to improve the stage upon which your characters strut and fret is to think of how that stage would be decorated if it were a play. What props are scattered about for the characters to either pick up and interact with or ignore because they are mere decorations, but they are there. Then you have how you actually dress the stage. What color are the walls? Are they paneled? Do they have drapes? Do they have windows? Are they blue? There's always that joke about an English teacher that tried to draw deep meaning into some writer's work because he said the curtains were blue. Come to find out, the writer meant the curtains were the color blue. There was no deep psychological meaning behind that. It was just set dressing. It was not mental clues to the reader. Uh, oh yeah, Richie. Yeah. Um, Thinking back on the volumes my mother could convey with a simple eyebrow twitch, even when she didn't have time to draw them that day. Yeah. Um, and Carrie's telling us about Restream, which is one of those options I have looked into. 1024 a month, 114 to 232 a year on a Black Friday deal. Don't know if it's any better than StreamYard, but it does have a studio much like it. Yes. 19 to $49 for an individual month, if not billed yearly. And Richie is saying depends on the writer. Some people couch way too much into the blue canvas they placed on the desk, they being the actual writer. Yeah. And then there's the The people that insist that Chekhov's gun is necessary. Um, if there's a gun sitting on a table in the first act, somebody better be using it by the end of the third act. Maybe not. Maybe it's just a decoration. In that case, it's a red herring the writer dropped. It's just part of the scenery, not the set dressing. Scenery and set dressing are overlapping concepts. They're not the same thing, but they do overlap. Um, the setting I tend to think of as the background world, the culture, the technological level. Because I write science fiction and steampunk, I have to think of what level is this on. Uh, that's all part of the the setting. That the setting comes behind the scenery. It's the world. It's the civilization. It's the or lack of civilization. It's the backdrop behind your scene. Your scene is the stage. It has sets. It has whatever the sets require. Set dressing is the individual objects dropped in maybe random places that the audience can see and the characters can interact with. Your characters are obviously your characters, and then you can blend the setting, the scene, and the set dressing in order to build a a larger context for your reader to be drawn into. But you have to do that by the way the characters interact with not only each other, but the set dressing, the set, and the world they live in. MacGuffins? Yeah, MacGuffins can be fun if you know what you're doing. Yeah, and MacGuffins can really ruin a story if you don't establish rules for them. They can be, Wesley saved the day again. That's a definite MacGuffin. MacGyver had a pack of chewing gum and a paper clip and a pack of paper matches in his pocket, so he built an atomic bomb out of them. MacGuffin, oh my, you magnificent bastard, you. Uh, this is why I love you, brother. Uh, no, I mean, um, MacGuffins are those Deus ex machina sort of things that they pop up in a story and they either ruin it or shortcut it to the desired ending. Or if used properly, they can set up further things that you can develop in the next chapter of the story or the sequel to the story, or you can just go, uh, it's already at 50,000 words. I need the Egg McGuffin. And Or the designated distraction. Yeah. Uh, oh God, have y'all heard that story? I don't know. Um, there's two cops sitting in a police car outside a bar. This guy staggers out carrying a crate of bottles, staggering to his car, breaks some of the bottles trying to load them in the trunk, sits in the car, acts like he's all passed out. They're going, hey, we got us a DUI here. All we got to do is sit and wait. Other patrons come out of the bar, get in their cars, and drive off. Cops know if they follow any of these other people, they're going to lose their surefire DUI. After everybody else has left, guy wakes up, cranks up the car, leaves the parking lot, pulls out on the road. Cops pull him over right then and there, and then they give him a sobriety test and find out he didn't drink anything the whole night. They go, Mister, what was all of that about? And the guy just looks at the cops and go, I was a designated distraction. There's no law against being a smartass. Otherwise, Richie and me would be in jail. Thank you. Thesis. A MacGuffin, for those that don't know, is an object, device, or event that is necessary to the plot and the motivations of the characters, but insignificant, unimportant, or irrelevant in itself. It's a plot device. It can be well used, it can be overused, it can be misused. It depends on the experience of the writer, I would say, is one of the top priorities. How serious the writer wants to be taken is another thing. And, well, how much money's left in the budget by the time it actually gets into some sort of production? Yes, the briefcase in Pulp Fiction is a really good example. You never find out what's in the briefcase, but the briefcase is very important to the plot. Um, the kid in the Eddie Murphy movie Golden Child is a MacGuffin. He's incredibly important to the plot, but in and of himself, he's just another kid. Might turn out to be a Jedi someday, to cross the streams, which I do frequently, and might turn out to be a red herring. Um, Not necessarily the next Dalai Lama, might just be. You never know because that doesn't get established in the movie. The green-eyed Chinese girl in Big Trouble in Little China is a MacGuffin. Very important to the plot. A lot of pivotal points around her. it's just one of those things. And it turns out even the bad guy goes, hey, rules never said the green-eyed girl had to be Chinese. What hadn't I figured out this myself years ago? I could have broken this curse. Marries both, is going to kill one and live out his carnal pleasures with the other one. Good guys show up and put the kibosh on that real quick. Oh, and for people that play D&D, there's a smattering of um, standard monster manual monsters in there that you get to see animated in a live action movie for the first time. Um, hell, um, these are not the same things as plot twists. Plot twists is when the writing leads you to draw one conclusion and then something happens to turn that on its head or swap it in a totally different direction that you didn't expect because the writers decided following the formula is boring. We can follow the formula up this far, but then I'm going to throw a monkey wrench in the works and, hey, plot twist, let's go. Uh, oh, yeah, Thesis, you gotta love Big Trouble in Little China. Um, and actually, Buckaroo Banzai as well. Those two movies I absolutely love. I watch them back to back sometimes. There was a rumor that Big Trouble in Little China was actually the sequel to Buckaroo Banzai, but had to use different characters. That's not true. That's not true at all. They had no relationship to each other whatsoever. There are 2 or 3 scripts online for an actual sequel to Buckaroo Banzai. Um, someone may have tried to write a sequel to Big Trouble in Little China, but if they ever did, I have not seen it. And I have no idea what that particular plot would be like. Uh, I'm not going down that rabbit hole right now because I'll dream up something else that I don't have the right to. I don't have the literary rights to pursue. Uh, and writing is one of those things that I'd like to get paid for. So, while I have committed fanfic in the past, it was back when I was starting out and I had a unique twist on something that I could try and make as subtle as possible until it was absolutely obvious this was fanfic for an established property, um, which is also different from dropping literary and historical references and characters into a brand new work that they have pretty much no business being in. They are out of period objects most of the time. But they're Easter eggs for readers who have sampled a very wide and varied literary set of worlds. I do that quite a lot. Uh, some people have told me I do it too much. Uh, mm, that's neither here nor there. 1:30. We started the show at 11:30. Um, I really should run the end credits now. It's been fun. Thank you for listening to me ramble on. I've enjoyed talking about writing in various shapes, and forms. Um, I even enjoyed scolding Thesis on being a bit timid about continuing his work or putting it into a longer format and publishing it. Not going to call him afraid, going to call him timid because it is a big step. It's daunting until you have actually gotten it done the first time, and there's something out there with your name on it that people can decide to plunk down their hard-earned money to have a copy of their own, whether it be electronic or physical. It's not an easy thing to work yourself up to. We're trying to get Richie to get his out there. I understand the manuscript is done and the cover is under construction. So, that process is midway through. That'll happen. Um, Thesis, you've got what what appears to be a fan favorite character in Jeff the Demon Possessed Roomba. I'm glad I had a hand in the concept for that, even though I did none of the writing. That's all Thesis. All I did was correct a couple of typos. Uh, but believe me, you need to read that. Everybody needs to read that. It's hilarious. Um, and I hope that you find a way to continue it into further stories, even if they are just really short, you know, flash fiction, 1,000 word things, as long as you can develop the premise and get it to the ending you want that makes sense in 1,000 words, then flash fiction works. That's also a good writer's exercise. It teaches you to cut out unnecessary verbiage to avoid more flowery speech, which is exactly what I have a weakness for. And just tell the story as the story, just the bare bones of the story. There are drabbles, which are really short. Um, there are things that are 2 sentence complete stories. I didn't write this one, but I know it. The last man on earth sat alone in his room. Suddenly, there was a knock on the door. That's a complete story right there. 2 sentences. No unnecessary stuff. The reader does all the work, imagining what follows after that. What led up to that? Why is that the last man on earth? Why is he sitting in a room? Who the fuck is knocking on the door? Or what is knocking on the door? All that is up to the reader. All that is up to the reader, just like everything else, everybody else's work. You read it, you interpret it the way you interpret it. Don't let anybody try and tell you that the writer meant this, the writer meant that, unless they are the writer. And if the writer's no longer with us, there aren't any experts to tell you what they meant. They're just people telling you their interpretations. On that note, folks, I'm going to call it a night. Thank you very much for putting up with me. Next week is not going to be holidays, so maybe we'll be back to the multi-guest format that we all know and love. And I thank you for your time and your consideration. And I hope you don't think less of me for this barely coherent rambling that I've been doing. I think I made an awful lot of sense in a couple of places. And we'll just call it a night. Good night, Gracie.
Transmission overload.
System will shut down. will shut down. System will shut down. System will shut down.